to start. Thank you very much, people, for coming to this talk, even if the World Football Club thing is starting soon. That's much appreciated. We are going to talk about open data at Eclipse within the context of the Crossminer project during this talk. This is actually a joint presentation and work between the Crossminer project and the Eclipse Foundation. So the Eclipse Foundation is represented here by Christopher Guindon, and I'm Boris Baldassari for the Crossminer project. So we'll start with a short presentation, talk a bit about the Crossminer project, and see the work that has been done on the API by the Eclipse Foundation. So, I am Boris Baldassari. I work for Castalia Solutions. I'm a partner of the Crossminer projects that we will describe soon. And I work with methods and tools for software development, software quality, and open data, especially in the realm of software engineering.
Yes, good afternoon. I'm Christopher Guindon. I'm the Web Development Manager at the Eclipse Foundation. I've been working at the Eclipse Foundation for about 7 years. And I'm excited to talk today about something that I care about, is kind of sharing some of our data with the Eclipse community, and it's basically a big shift on how we at the Eclipse Foundation, especially the web dev team, the way we've been doing things, because of the, I guess, the historical code that we have on our website and for all of our different services. It's very, very, very hard for us to move quickly and make changes to our to our infrastructure, because we have code all over the place that are kind of connecting to our different databases. And if we kind of make change to our database schemas, basically we could take down our download page or take down some of our important websites. So basically we are building this API for the Eclipse community, but also for the Eclipse Foundation. So we are a big consumer. So I'll be discussing a bit about the possibilities of what we offer at the Eclipse Foundation with our API, how Eclipse projects can take advantage of our API, but also I cannot talk about open data and making our data available without kind of bringing up the subject of the GDPR. So I will be discussing the GDPR a little bit, and the things that have been changing and things that have changed and what we needed to change on our API to kind of make sure that we are compliant with the GDPR. So
The Crossminer project is a research project funded by the European Union. Its goal is to basically help people manage software development projects. So in order to do that, we study the history of software projects. We mine a lot of various data sources, from configuration management, issue tracking, continuous integration, mailing lists, forums. We do some text mining, especially, so we do polarity and sentiment analysis, things like that. Question and answer websites. We try to identify patterns. We investigate cross-project relationships. We store everything in a knowledge base. And then from this knowledge base, we have two outputs. One is a web dashboard, which gives insight on the project's health. And we also have an Eclipse IDE plugin, which provides in-place recommendations so at the code level, at the process level, and at the community management level. So this is part of the Horizon 2020 research program from the EU. All of the European research projects are actually a mix of research labs and partners from all over the European Union. And what we do, the Eclipse Foundation and Castalia Solutions, what we do in these projects is that we make sure that the results of the project are disseminated correctly. So because it's public money, so we want everybody to take benefits of it. We make sure that the project doesn't stop after the end of the funding, because these projects are 3 years long and we want the outputs to stay and live after that. make sure that people can still use it years after and so on. So we are creating an Eclipse project to host the code and build a community, make sure that the project is still alive after the 3 years. This is something we have already done. So the project is already created within the Eclipse Foundation. Its name is Scava, technology.scava. We have not yet done our first initial contribution, but that will be soon. We also have in this project the duty to provide data to the parsers. So everything in the Forge, from the tooling, mailing list, and so on, we make that data available to the parsers of the project. And since we are playing with the data, we also aim at providing data sets both to the public, you and me, and the research community. And so these data sets are privacy safe, so we scramble all the personally identifiable information, email addresses, and so on. But we still want the researcher to be able to use it. So as an example, when you have an email address, it's always scrambled with the same output. So you can still find occurrences and do some research about it. And it's privacy safe. So every time that we generate one of these data sets, which are about many, which comes from many various data sources, we put them on this website, which is softwaredata.org, and they can be freely downloaded from there. And every dataset comes with some documentation describing the structure of the dataset and giving some steps to easily use the data, so import it into some software, so R in this case, make some manipulation and do some graphics with that just for people to be able to use it easily. So that was really one of the goals of these data sets, that people could easily read it. So we provide them most of the time in the form of CSV files, which are really easy to import with whatever tool you are using. And we also provide in the documentation code snippets to just import it into R, do the manipulation, and so on. As I said before, all personal information is anonymized, and we still preserve the unicity of information, so you can find occurrences in the datasets to identify the items belonging to a same person without knowing the name of the email address of this person. As for the data sources that we target, so we will produce soon datasets about the continuous integration at Eclipse for a set of 80 projects, roughly. We will provide datasets about Git, so it's basically what you can find in the Git log output, but we translate it to a CSV file with the anonymization step. We also have everything about issues, so a list of issues as CSV, which is a lot easier for people to manipulate. We have datasets about the forums and the mailing lists, and also from external websites like Stack Overflow, question and answer websites. And we also plan on having things like hacker news and news websites. Right now, the mailing list dataset is already available. We also have a dataset about the exceptions encountered by users of the Eclipse IDE through the IRE reporting system. So you're welcome to go to the softwaredata.org website to check that. Here are a few examples of what can be done with this data, because it's not just about data, it's what you can get from there, the insights you can get from there. So these are just examples. It's something like a dozen lines of code to import the data and produce that kind of graphics. So these two graphics are made from the mailing list dataset. You have the distribution of companies, of posts belonging to companies across the years, or the number of posts by people with the categorized with the company they belong to. And for the other data sources that we have, so this is an example of the commits across the years. The questions on Stack Overflow, blue questions are answered, red are not answered, so that gives you an insight about the popularity of the project, and also things like word clouds. This one is borrowed from the, so is made from the mailing list datasets, so that enables you to quickly know what are the main keywords that are used in the mailing list for this project, CDT, as you can see.
So it's my turn. So API.eclipse.org. So basically, we've built API.eclipse.org, which is a REST API to kind of serve and distribute our data to our community, but to also Eclipse project. And basically, this actually started with a problem that the Eclipse project was trying to solve, and basically trying to store preferences across multiple computers or laptops or workspaces in an efficient way. So basically, we started a discussion of how we can do this. We started by thinking, okay, we need to upload an XML file with the preferences. We could probably do that with HTTP authentication with user, but I was really concerned about security and kind of requiring users to insert their username and password directly in Eclipse. So this is when we started and we decided that we need an API that will allow us to kind of push, allow project to push data to our server and have a proper security mechanism for authentication, which we implemented a lot. So the goals with our new API. I mean, it's new. It's about 2 years, but we starting to push more of our data public more recently, as to really, as I said, share data with the Eclipse community. But also we want to kind of reduce the load on our database server, and we do that with either kind of creating copies of data from our API, or leveraging basic HTTP caching from the browser, so that when a person requests the same resources, it's cached for the next 5 or 10 minutes based on how important it is to have the most recent data. We also, with our API, it allows us to kind of give more access and more granular access to our data. One problem, because since we've been around for so long, is that some of our Eclipse projects needed access to our data from basically that was stored in a MySQL database, and we originally gave them direct read access to our database. And this is something that I'm trying to work in the future to avoid, and basically avoid projects to connect to our database. And basically, I want all of our Eclipse projects to kind of use our API. So, and I know that a lot of people, and I don't know if it's project or people go on our website and actually do web scraping to get either download counts for listings on Eclipse Marketplace or packages. And for those people, I'd like to kind of recommend that, if you're doing that, it's possible that other people might want that same kind of data. So I would recommend to open a bug on Eclipse Bugzilla under the API.eclipse.org component, and kind of describe what kind of data that you need, and perhaps it's something that we can build for you, but could be as used for the foundation, but for the whole Eclipse community. Obviously, by leveraging HTTP caching, we have better website performance. We also, we had a problem in the last maybe 3 years ago where we had problem with our database stability, and basically you would go on eclipse.org and one of our database server were down, and basically the whole website was taken down. When now we retrieve most of our data using our API, it's possible that a resource is down or a database is down. That endpoint might return an error, but the page would still load, and most of the page can continue to function. So people can still continue to work. And also, I guess the original goal, as I said, with the OOMF Eclipse projects was to kind of allow projects to offer a better experience by kind of using our data, either or having the ability to store user data on our server. And I want to stress that if there are projects that are interested in storing data on our servers, it's open to everybody. All you need to do is kind of open a bug and make a request, and we can work with you to grant you access. We kind of need to know what kind of data you want to store, because we do not want the project to store passwords or any private information. It's mostly for things like OOMF is using it for preferences. The next project that started to use the Eclipse User Storage Service was the Marketplace client, which is storing Marketplace favorites. So that's another good example of what you can use it for. So this brings me to basically to make it easier for Eclipse projects to interact with our API and handle authentication and user authentication, to avoid having them to re-implement the wheel. We created an Eclipse project called the Eclipse User Storage Service SDK, which basically is a set of Java library that kind of handles the authentication process for you, and basically stores the access token and revalid when it's expired. It will kind of fetch a new access token for you. So it makes it a lot easier to kind of use this service if you needed to. So going back to our API, we have a lot of endpoints that are kind of, or internal services that are kind of private, that we use internally for things that, for example, our committer elections and kicking off committer elections and committer paperwork. This can be done across multiple sites. So the way we're doing it is we're kind of sending that information to API, and API actually kind of handles the states of the current committer paperwork. But we do have we're starting to have more, but we'd have a few public endpoints. One is information about users from our community. We have close to 400,000 accounts on our website, on the Eclipse User Storage Service on API, and so you can get information about public information about our users, for example, first and last name, because those are required field. And we at Eclipse Foundation, obviously, we're building a open and transparent community. So it's important for us to kind of, we need to display the name of people so that they're not, submitting pull requests anonymously. So that kind of information is available. As I mentioned earlier, the Eclipse User Storage Service is available to Eclipse projects. It's possible to get information about download files and Eclipse release, for example. I'll show an example after. You can get some information about favorites, which user favorited which listings on Marketplace, and how many people favorited a listing. And recently we implemented the Eclipse Forum endpoint, which kind of allow us to kind of get all the messages, all the posts, and all the topics on the Eclipse Forum. And this was really created on one of the requests from Crossminer, where they needed that kind of information. So that's a perfect example where an Eclipse project kind of needed some of our data, and we work with them to make it available for them, but also for everybody at the community. So if anybody is interested to kind of see how that works, we have documentation on api.eclipse.org. The landing page is a documentation page. And if you see some typos or you want to help us keep it up to date, the source code is available on GitHub. So this is an example of an endpoint that's often being used, and it's basically if you do a get call to api.eclipse.org download/release, Eclipse packages, which is a type of download release you're looking for. It basically gives you a lot of metadata about, well, this one, since it doesn't have any other argument, it gives you the most recent release with Oxygen 3A. And then all the downloads files that are associated with each packages, and you have, for example, download counts, the checksum, some interesting things that you that could be useful if you want to implement your own download page, or you'd like to make, even if you want to suggest improvement to our download page, you have the same data that we are using to kind of build our download page. So it's something you can use, or even if you want to, validate the checksum, you can use our API to get that information. But by building API like this, our goal is not to create one single location where all of our data exists. Obviously, we are a very small team. My team basically is 2 people. It's me and Eric Poirier, which is my partner in crime when it comes to web development. So our goal is not to reinvent the wheel. So we do redirect, for some other type of data. So for project information, we have a wiki page for the documentation, which we have a link on our documentation on API. But there's a way to get information about all of our Eclipse projects. We reuse Eclipse Bugzilla REST API since it's available, and we actually use it also. Garrett Jenkins. So we do have links on my documentation page. So feel free to kind of take a look at that. But those APIs are available to you as well. So now a lot of people ask me, what is the future API? Where you guys are going with this? And basically, I really want to focus more on making our project data more accessible, more flexible, easier to query, and I guess more useful, because I think it's something that would be very beneficial for the community, but also for us. For example, if you have a Git URL, it'd be nice to be possible to query your API and see, okay, this Git repo is for this Eclipse project. And we're planning to use this to kind of replace a bunch of our tooling where we directly connect to our database or to our LDAP server to validate, for example, if the user is a committer on this project for our CLA checks. We are planning to kind of share more information about our events, so like EclipseCon France, a standardized way to kind of get information about the session, the schedule, the ability to submit feedback on the mobile app, which would be super nice. But also the ability, so because one of our problems in the web dev team, we're very small and we have a lot of working group side, project side, different website to maintain. We often need to kind of update different events for different working group sites or different, and it's all currently manually done. So it'd be nice for us to be able to query our event endpoint and give me all the events that are Jakarta.ee related, and we can update, and the website will be automatically updated. And I consider this to be a useful tool for Eclipse project that wants to display maybe project related events on their website. The same thing for news, our news item, press release. It's something that we need to do on all of our we do manually on all of our website, and we have a lot of website with different technology. We use Drupal, we use Hugo, we use vanilla PHP. So it's kind of a pain to kind of duplicate all this information. So we want to share our news item and press release, and we are. One other service that our API offer is OpenID Connect service, which is basically a framework on top of OAuth that basically allows third party to kind of allow people to log in with their Eclipse account without requiring them to enter their username and password directly on that third party website, which you guys all know that could be vulnerable to somebody stealing your credential and then becoming you on our Eclipse website. So so we want to migrate the Eclipse Wiki, the Eclipse Forum, the Eclipse Bugzilla to that authentication, because currently we wrote a bunch of custom plugins that are directly interacting with our LDAP server to do the authentication, and it's a pain for us to maintain. So yeah, using this open standard, I think will make it easier for us to, again, to standardize and make it more stable on our when people logs into our site. So again, if an Eclipse project is interested or requires people to log into an account, that's another service that we can offer. We can grant you access to our OpenID Connect service, and you could technically allow people to log into your site using their Eclipse credential. And that's done by opening a bug again on Eclipse Bugzilla. My hope too is to leverage our account.eclipse.org website to make that a bit easier to make those type of requests, or the PMI actually, sorry. So so that projects can either request API client ID in secret easier by the PMI instead of going to Bugzilla. But for now, this is the process. So obviously, I've talked about open data, and obviously we have our endpoint that has user information. So it's impossible for me to avoid the GDPR, especially here in France, in Europe. So obviously, I know most of you guys know what the GDPR is, but just a quick recap. The GDPR is a new regulation in Europe that basically gives back the power to the user to have more control on their data. It was adopted about 2 years ago, and it came enforceable on May 25th. So it was kind of a struggle for us because, like most North American people and companies, we kind of got working on that maybe in the last few months of this going live. So we had to make some quick decision. We made some, and our goal is obviously to be compliant, and we are obviously taking a safer approach in regard to the GDPR. So for example, things that we've done is, for example, Google Analytics tracking on our website is only done by user consent, which is a big change from what we've been doing, and obviously it affected our reporting system, because currently have a drop about 60% of the data we used to have. Another change is that, like I said, in our API, we had to kind of protect more of our data. So especially on the user endpoint, the email was available. Now it's only available to clients that have the consent from the user. So by using OAuth, you have an authorization page which asks the user, do you accept or do you agree, do you allow basically this project or this client to have access to your email, and if you agree, then that information is sent back to them. With the GDPR, we on the accounts.eclipse user profile website, we have new privacy controls, so people can opt in to show information, and we updated our website private policy.
So the conclusion here is there is a lot of data that can be used from the Eclipse Forge. So it's quite something to know if you want to discover things in your projects on the Eclipse Forge, or if you want to show something. So there are both the APIs from the various tools involved in the development of the projects. There is this softwaredata.org website. There is the API from the Eclipse Foundation itself. So please help yourself, use the data, make good use of it. And what about your project if you want to get involved in this open data thing? First, if you want your project to be analyzed by Crossminer, we will set up an instance of Crossminer for the Eclipse Forge and take a set of projects to analyze and provide recommendations and so on. So if you like to have your project analyzed by Crossminer, please get in touch. You can go on the crossminer.org website contact form. You can join the mailing list just to know what's happening there and if you could get in. It's on the Eclipse website, of course. And regarding the Eclipse API, if you'd like to use or know more about this service, you can go to the project USS SDK here. So that's about it.